Just when we thought the tank was over, the Raptors pull us back in with a big win over the Pistons last night. Or sorry, big loss. Sorry, big loss. Yeah.
4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2. Jaden Ivey from the baseline. Buries it at the horn. Pistons win.
Just when you thought the tank was over, the Raps pull us back in with another road loss. Only team in the NBA yet to win on the road this season, but at least it was a fun loss.
If you seek instant gratification, don't root for Raptors wins. You'll be better off that way.
Like, I'm actually worried. I think they're going to mess up this ethical tank. I know it's a good thing to get a good pick, but it ain't easy, man. It ain't easy watching these losses.
This is Basketball Island. Hein, Hambone, Wes, Fab. And Wes, you hit the nail on the head right there with ethical tank. I feel like I saw ethical tank on my timeline everywhere last night following that Pistons game because we've talked about it before. Lose, but lose fun. Mm-hmm. And they started to, once Scottie came back, it seemed like maybe they were starting to mess it up with a couple wins. But yeah, they're back to what we needed last night against the Pistons.
This is the green piece of tank jobs right now, all right? We got a good one going here. I think they've had 8 games where they've lost in clutch time situations. They keep keeping games tight, but obviously it's a young squad. So some of these things that are happening in these clutch time situations, which you've been capitalizing on from a betting standpoint, taking them against against whatever the spread or the money line is.
Just waiting and in-gaming,
them. But this is what you get with a team that doesn't have the reps that they need. So I'm not surprised that it's happening that way. I'm more encouraged by the fact that they're so competitive 3.5 quarters in every single time. It's a good sign. Like I don't take anything away from it. I'm satisfied as a fan watching them have success.
The Raptors are fallen victim to 2 of the season's buzzer beaters, game-winning buzzer beaters. They're 4 all season. They've been at the losing end of 2 of them. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. They need these reps. You said it best, man. Like, fourth quarter, games get tight, sphincters get tight. Who steps up? What kind of offense are you executing? I have a lot of issues, a lot of the stuff I saw offensively against the Pistons, but I kind of want to see Scottie Barnes, who's had issues in the past, late in games, making some questionable decisions. Thought he had that tying bucket late where he kind of just put his shoulder into Tobias Harris and got an easy bucket. That's the kind of stuff I want to see from Barnes. I thought he had a great game. Still a little loosey-goosey, still a little clumsy out there at times, but I need to see the growing pains.
Barnes was excellent against the Pistons. I mean, he hasn't played that much this year, but easily his best game. Yeah. I wanted to see the ball in his hands more late in games. Now, I don't want to dwell on this Pistons game too much, but the decision-making offensively was wild to me. RJ running down the court, playing for a foul with 20 seconds left on the shot clock. Davion Mitchell driving at a big with a minute left. I mean, part of the season is development. I want to see their best player, Scottie Barnes, have the ball in his hands more often in those situations. I don't want these other guys making those decisions, especially with like tons of time left on the clock. So it's all about development, right? So develop your best guy.
Honestly, man, the last 4 minutes of that game, and this goes for the Pistons too, it looked like both teams just forgot how to play offensive basketball because they were just hucking crap up at the rim and nothing was working for either team. Like, that was Scottie, like you said, Scottie was awesome for 3.5 quarters, but yeah, you want to see him be more assertive late in the game.
That was the Raptors' strategy, that game. And other than last year, the Raptors been like top 3, top 4 in the league in offensive rebounding percentage. So this is what they do. They don't really take the best shots. They miss a lot of shots. Their effective field goal is like bottom 5 every year, it seems. Yet they find a way to clean it up on the offensive glass.
Hustle points and second chance points in offensive rebounding. Without that, they aren't even in that game.
We didn't see that last year, and we're seeing it this year.
Well, I think, look, when you talk about making like elite shot makers, that takes time. That takes like pure talent from maybe a draft standpoint. But in terms of developing team identity, building this thing as a rebuild, they're doing all the things a scrappy team, like teams like Orlando in the past, Memphis when they're up and coming. You win the possession battle. Look at the offensive rebounding deficiency. Look at the turnover battle that they won against Detroit. They end up losing that game, so be it. But they're doing all the small things that make, like Tom Thibodeau is one of these teams that does that very well. They do all the things on the margins that give them a chance to win. And if the shot makers can make the shots, then it's a guaranteed win. It just, right now,
I mean,
not the best shot makers.
I think what we're seeing is you have some guys who are good offensively and some who are good defensively, and not a lot of two-way guys. But, I mean, how can you expect them to be good offensively when Look at the floor spacing. Look who's on the floor. Look at the 5 guys on the court late in that game. Davion Mitchell. I mean, let's have a talk here because
Yes.
Hold on, let's just preface this at the beginning of this. Fab, quote, I don't want to go off on Davion Mitchell. What are we, 4 minutes into this pod and Fab's already broken
But
his
I'm
rule?
gonna go off on Davion Mitchell.
Yeah.
Here we go, Fab. Let us know, man.
the math just, as most staff said, simple mathematics, man. You can't shoot threes. His turnover percentage is higher than his usage. That means he's throwing the ball away all the time. I mean, I don't know what to say. He craters your offense completely.
Decision making too. We talked about that late possession late in that game. Like, decision making is bad.
I like some of the stuff he does. So
The ball pressure.
I love the ball pressure. I love the defensive intangibles that he brings. I think it's okay to lose, man. Like, again, it's a question of, do you want him making these decisions late?
No.
Like, I would rather Scottie, obviously we discussed that, and RJ Barrett make the decisions. Have a lot of questions about the RJ Barrett decision making. Until Quickly gets back in that lineup, it should be all Scottie all the time. Obviously, Grady's out with a calf strain. Hopefully, he's back soon. But I think we knew what Davion was, right? Like, the Kings just kind of tossed him in that trade to Toronto. We know he does one or two things particularly well. It's on-ball defense, and he's supposed to be pretty good on off-ball, though that's kind of been a little wonky at times. I'm surprised he can't stick an open 3. Like, that's like, man, if you can do that, you have value in this league. It's
So that's
unfortunate.
why you're shipped off, right?
Yeah.
That's why
That's why you get him
I'm
for
sure
free.
the Kings are like, we've been waiting long enough. You
Yeah.
can't get it done. My thing in this situation is, okay, obviously, Manuel Quickly, he's just been bad luck.
Yeah.
He's out, so, like, you just can't talk anything about that. I want to see more Shed. Just give me more Shed.
Yeah.
I'll take more Shed. They're basically full strength. It's technically going to be one of those two, right? Because Quickly is going to be part of the future. He's the future. If I have to make a decision between Mitchell and Shed, I kind of feel like I already know what Davion is. Let me see what Shed's capable of doing. Can he show some extra stuff that we haven't seen yet from his college days? Can he grow into the position? I'd rather see more minutes from him than keeping them constantly giving it back to Davion Mitchell.
I think you're bang on. So why aren't we seeing more of that?
Well, I think Mitchell is a trade candidate. I think that's the guy you look to move to a team that wants his skill set. So I think it makes sense right now, in my opinion, to play some of these guys early if your intention is to trade them. Because, we're talking, you're going to re-sign Davion Mitchell. What does that look like? How much you paying him?
So they have a qualifying offer for him, so he can be a restricted free agent.
So I think teams kind of like that because they can control his future. So, I mean, to me, it's explore the space, man. As long as you're losing games and you're losing fun, ideally you want your young guys to get reps late in games. Ideally, that's what you want to do. But if you can get something for him come deadline, come February, if a team's out there that likes what he does with his ball pressure, maybe you can get some value.
That's fine, but in a game like the Pistons, the bench brought them back. So why aren't they rewarded with more minutes down the stretch?
I'm a Darko Rajakovic. I don't know.
I'm just saying those are the kind of games where if they're playing well, ride them.
I mean-
why do the other guys have to come in when the bench saved you all game?
Abaji had probably one of his worst games.
Mobo
this
was
season.
great.
Mobo was good.
Boucher was great.
Boucher was fine.
So I
yeah.
mean, just ride earn your playing time, right? Like there shouldn't be a thing where Davion has to play 30 minutes a night.
Just keep losing. Just keep
They're
losing.
doing that, and I think the schedule is getting even tougher now.
It will, and then it gets a lot easier late in the year. So, I know we feel a certain way. Some fans might want these wins now. Get your instant gratification elsewhere. This is not the place. Raptors games are not the place to try and be happy. Chase your happiness elsewhere. Lose games now. You're going to need them.
Now, Wes mentioned this earlier. All of the clutch losses, and there's a ton. We got that Nuggets OT loss. Lost to the Hornets, lost to the Nuggets again. Clippers, Pistons, Celtics, Pistons. At what point do the players start to wear some of these losses? Because I feel like last night especially, and over the last week, the energy of the team has been fantastic. They still seem to be playing together. Do those losses start to creep in and you lose some of that?
Maybe. But, you get a
Especially,
win.
it's more the way that they're losing. It's just so heartbreaking.
You get a win against Minnesota, a good team. That should bring the spirits up. Obviously, you'd like to get a road win. You're 0-10 this season on the road. You don't want to be the team that's mentioned as in the record books.
Well, right now
they've
tied the franchise record from the 97-98 team, which was still playing at Skydome.
It'd be nice to get
on the road.
It'd be nice to get a road win. Maybe they play a bad team on the road and they can get that one. But there might be some of that. I think that's on Darko. It's on the team culture. I think they knew what this year was. Masai said it. Jakob Poeltl said it. It's a rebuilding year. You want one of these wins, but losing is fine. It's fine.
But it's not just about the results. It's about accountability for how you're playing. RJ Barrett, you can't fall asleep on a back door like multiple times. You can't in transition. A guy's ghosting behind you. Darko has to set a standard. Like, sorry, man, you need to be aware of these situations. That's basic basketball. We're not asking for much here. Like, keep your man in front of you or keep track of him.
Well, RJ's Jekyll and Hyde. Like, the Knicks fans will complain about the same thing with him, right? Like, he'll have a stretch of amazing games where he's super efficient and he's locked in defensively. Then he'll have a few games where he's not, right? Like that first road trip, RJ was inefficient as hell, got beat defensively like crazy. Then he had a couple great home games, and then we got one of the bad RJ games.
I'm not saying like the offense will come and go. I'm not he'll have some games he's hot. I'm just saying there's basic stuff you need to do as
Stay between your man and the basket. That's the first thing they teach you.
Don't let a guy with a minute left get a layup.
It's funny though.
That's not ridiculous to ask for.
Fab said last week we can't have a referendum on RJ every week, but it really feels like every week it is. That's what
We kind of can't help ourselves, right? Because he's such a polarizing player.
Polarizing player, very interesting player, because when everyone gets healthy, and if you assume the Raptors are going to draft a stud in this upcoming draft, to me, we need to just take our medicine with the fact that he might have to be a bench player going forward.
What's the grade you would give on RJ so far this year? Because I think at times we were extremely happy, and then it goes in waves.
I think it's like a B. All right? He's not an A+. He's definitely not had a bad season. I think one thing that I like about the fact that this team, obviously the young team, you're seeing the ceiling from kind of every single player. They've had some ceiling moments throughout the season, every single one of them. I want to see the consistency level now start to carry through with that. Everyone's proven that they've got some level that they can get to, which is great. You should be very encouraged as a Raptors fan. Let's bring the floor higher now. Let's make sure every single night we're not having situations like Fab's mentioning where it's like this has been happening game after game after game. That window needs to be closed off, right? I love the ceilings that you're seeing from all these players. That's what I think is most encouraging. Whether or not the consistency comes, well, we'll find out.
Mm-hmm. I think seeing Bruce Brown, who was very open about the injuries he dealt with. I appreciate that honesty, that he was hurt last year and he's looking forward to playing. A guy like that helps. Kelly Olynyk helps. I don't know when he's slated to come back, but...
And that's why these losses now are good.
Yeah.
Because the Raptors are going to get these guys back, these veterans back.
Yeah.
They're going to start getting some wins as the schedule thins out in the new year. It's okay. And I get it. It's a young team, right? The consistency is going to be the hardest thing to achieve for a young team. You're going to get so many of these hills and troughs, and that's okay. That's okay.
Well, especially now with Scottie back, just by the nature of the talent, and he will bring up those around him. Some wins are going to come accidentally on purpose.
Man, Scottie had some moments in that Pistons game. He's flinging one-handed passes with his left, like fastballs, man. Just the tantalizing prospect of what this guy can do with the ball in his hands. I think we saw a glimpse of that in Detroit. I want to see as much of that as possible.
Yeah, and I want to see him with floor spacing and other good players on the court. All I know is if the Raptors end up with Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey, put a plaque of Davion Mitchell on Scotiabank. The tank commander himself.
All right, let's transition to the rest of the league because we talked about it last week and the week before. The injuries have kind of robbed us of a lot of great players, and they're still happening. Guys are still going down. But those early injuries, we're starting to see some guys come back. We're taping this on a Tuesday. KD making his return tonight. I know selfishly, we all have a lot of Suns action. So selfishly, we're happy for that. Who are you most excited to see back on the court? For me, it's hands down Durant.
It's Durant, especially if you we have some future equity on Phoenix. I still think there's value on them to win the division. Do you believe in the Golden State Renaissance is the real question when it comes to that. They lose at home to Brooklyn last night. I'm buying the dip on Phoenix. I know I mentioned I'd buy the dip on Philly last week.
How's that going for you?
You have to be a masochist. You have to be a real sicko to keep doing that. I mean, I didn't see Paul George getting hurt on top of it. Embiid held out again. If I like buying the dip on teams. I think this is a long, long season. Phoenix is a very interesting spot right now, plus 370 on FanDuel to win the division. I think Golden State might come down to earth a little bit, but that's a very intriguing spot for me.
I'm also going to flag, I know we're all on Nikola Jokic to win Clutch Player of the Year. Keep your eye on Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
He was the favorite before he got hurt. He's now 12-1.
So do we take an insurance policy on that? Do we have?
I'm not saying it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because they're probably going to play a lot of close games, and if you look at the clutch scoring, he's not that far behind Jokic, and he was actually over 20-1. But when the news came out that he was back, he dropped instantly.
And Suns are 8-1 in games where Durant plays this year as of this taping. So he helps them win. There's like actual data to back that up.
Yep.
What about you, Wes? Who are you most excited to see back?
I wouldn't say I'm excited to see, but with Porzingis back, I think it correlates to one thing I've said previously. I never liked Peyton Pritchard at the price that he is for $6 man a year. So having a guy like Kristaps Porzingis back now pushes everybody on that depth chart just a little bit back. I want to see what happens in that situation. I get it. He can chuck 3 amongst the best of them off the bench, but we'll see whether or not they're going to need him to do it the same volume that he's been so far.
I feel like they're really going to handle that with kids' gloves, especially for Boston. It doesn't even, the 1 seed might not even really matter to them to the level that it would have pre-championship. So I really think no back-to-backs for Porzingis, and they're really going to
Also, let me be on the record. I'm not excited to see Porzingis back.
That's
I
what
don't
I'm
care.
saying. That's
I
why I
don't
can't
care.
even-
All right. I'm just saying opportunity exists with there. It's, you have a chance to fade and go somewhere else in 6 man a year.
Wes, you bleed green, bro.
Oh, yeah. So green.
Well, another big injury, and this kind of affected the MVP market, was Luka. Luka goes down, his MVP odds, and even just looking at MVP right now, I don't know, there's not really a ton to love to me.
Listen, man, I get that Jokic is amazing. All right.
Plus 200 though, like
I would not buy that. Even Shea at plus 300. I mean, we have some equity on Shea. We want to see Shea do well this season. I think he's having a great year. Interesting. I would not buy either of them at those current prices. At plus 200 for Jokic, plus 300 for Shea. They're not going to give Jokic another MVP. No matter how good he plays this year, I will be shocked, flabbergasted if he gets another MVP.
They're not going to have enough wins. You probably need to, for Jokic to surpass the voter fatigue. And we talked about this before, how everyone's so sacred with, the number of MVPs. And if Jordan did this, then we can't do this for Jokic. If they don't get a top 2 seed, then they will not give him MVP, and I don't see them getting a top 2 seed.
They need to win enough games for sure. But if they climb over 50, because if you start comparing his numbers to other guys,
they're insane.
You lose.
Yeah, for sure.
You lose that battle. You can't compare to him statistically.
Except for one guy.
Who's that?
Who I would willing to buy now on, and that's Giannis Antetokounmpo. If the Bucks they dug themselves out of their early hole, this is their
6th.
This is their thin part of the schedule. They're racking up the wins.
Very easy games though.
Easy games, but Giannis is putting up monster numbers every single night. Career high in points, almost 12 rebounds a game, shooting 60% from the field. To me, that's the guy. Like, Giannis is always in those MVP conversations late in the year. If the Bucks, after that start, can win 50 games in the East, granted it is the East, but if they can win 50 games after that start, his numbers, I think, will be in competition with Jokic's down at the end. Same thing with Shea. And I think voters respect Giannis's kind of resume.
Sure.
He's been here before.
But once again, same thing with Jokic. You probably need, if you can't get a top 2 seed in the East, are they really going to give you MVP? And I don't think there's any chance they're going to catch Cleveland or Boston.
50 plus, I think he'll be in the running. If it's
Historically, that just hasn't been the case, though.
Russell Westbrook here.
But that's an outlier. It's very rare.
It's so Giannis was 30-1 a week ago. He's now gone down to 8-1. At this price, I don't know. It's a little bit short.
Yeah, where was his take when he was 30-1?
But
Too busy buying Philly stock.
Shea is still climbing. I mean, he lit the Kings on fire last night. Looked the part of an MVP. OKC quietly atop the West, just ho-hum going about their business. So he's in the mix, man. I think it's him and Jokic right now in a head-to-head.
Yeah, the path for Shea to me was with Chet healthy, they just become like a 60 to 65 win team. They're so far ahead of the path. They lap the rest of the West. Can't give it to anybody but the best player on the best team. Now that Chet's gone, I think that ceiling obviously is shortened. He has to use and take advantage of this window right now. And he's been okay. He's gotten his numbers up to like closer to 30 points a game. He's got to hit some career highs on multiple stat categories in order to match up with what Jokic is doing right now. Because Jokic is running away right now. And unless Shea can kind of catch up, get wins as well to match up with them, the argument becomes very tough. But then again, like you said, it's a sacred thing. There's only one guy that's ever won 4 MVPs in 5 years. Not even Jordan did it. All right. So they're going to give that to Jokic. They're going to anoint him on the same level as LeBron James. He's got to really, really earn it. And I think they're almost like begging for someone else to come and claim it instead.
Do you think I want this?
It just happened.
You think I want this? It just happened.
It just happened.
I don't want to chirp Jokic.
Great reference.
Did you see his shot against the Lakers at the buzzer where he caught it
Yeah.
in his own key and then push shotted it all the way
That was awesome.
the
Yeah.
entire court.
Yeah.
It almost went in. I don't want to root against this guy, but here's the thing, man. It's sacred, man. It's sacred. 4 MVPs in 5 years. If he doesn't win 50, 55 games,
They
then
might. But you're right. Someone has to take it from him.
Someone
then,
has to take it.
right?
So
Wait, go ahead.
where do you guys stand on Tatum at plus 450?
no, man.
No?
I don't think
No.
Tatum does enough individually. Unless Boston wins 65 to 70 games, I think it's a very tough argument, right?
65.
I think it's a very tough argument to make. They might try to do it.
They're
They might
just too
try to do it.
talented. There's just
Yeah,
too many
everyone
good-
else.
He
Yeah.
plays on an all-star team.
There's too many good players on Boston for me to take you seriously as an MVP.
Yeah, can't do it, man. I don't believe it. I do not buy it.
Okay, other awards then. I know Coach of the Year kind of caught my eye because Atkinson's he's minus money.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Ime, and I'm sorry, Wes, for
it's great,
stealing
man.
your. You just. I feel like you hammered it in over time that I'm absorbing what you're saying, and which is good. It shows that I'm learning. And at plus 850, that number just seems crazy for how good they are. And Cleveland, 4th easiest strength of schedule. Houston, 10th hardest so far. So Cleveland, I think, has to come back to earth a little bit because of such an easy strength of schedule to start the year.
Oh, I mean, look, I'll stack on that. Let's not forget, this is a Rockets team that didn't even make the play-in last year.
Yeah.
Not even the playoffs, the play-in. They weren't even
What
in it.
was their preseason wins? 42, 43 and a half?
Preseason wins with 42.5, which
Yeah.
is fine. Okay, but this is a team that wasn't even in the top 10 last year. They're 1.5 games out of number 1 in the vaunted Western Conference, which we all talk about. Oh, so much better than the Eastern Conference. Well, look, this scrappy Houston Rockets team is literally knocking right on the door there. So I think if they continue on this trajectory, they'll get more noise. Right now, it's kind of been a very quiet ascension for them. So I do agree. I think you're kind of buying them still at a low. There's not enough media attention on them yet. It will come. Especially if they get into the top 2 for a day or two, then suddenly, oh my God, we got the Houston Rockets.
Van Vliet tried to get the media attention.
Yeah,
That was great.
Oh,
Yeah.
Pointing
that was
at
a
every
little
ref.
Kelly Oubre. A couple things. I do think Atkinson is a clear favorite, and
Yes.
the odds suggest that because
It's still too early for someone to be minus
I
130.
know, but even if Cleveland kind of tapers off and plays somewhat decent basketball, they're a 55, 60 win team, and he's gonna ride this start probably till the end of the year and say, listen, we were 18-1.
But,
we were 17-1.
I think a big thing when it comes to, especially to Coach of the Year, is what were we expected and how much have you overachieved? Cleveland's preseason win total was what, 49 and a half? So
I know.
how much are they really going to overachieve compared to
the
Houston?
best offensive team in the league,
That's
and they've
what
won
it is. Yes.
loss.
That's what it is.
Right
So-
now, for sure.
Yeah.
I think every coach typically needs something they can really stamp their name on that they are responsible for in terms of changing the team.
and even-
Atkinson was a bottom half offense last year. They're number 1. Atkinson, no one changed. It's all the same personnel, right?
Except for one guy, my
Okay,
boy
don't-
Ty
don't-
Jerome.
But
Ty,
Atkinson-
Virginia's finest.
Atkinson gets all the credit for that. That's why it's so tough to run over that.
So,
but yeah, go ahead.
I
Go
feel
Ty
like
Jerome,
Ime, though,
yeah.
also is kind of stamping that narrative on the other side of the ball.
There you go.
With how they're playing defensively.
Exactly.
And yeah, I agree. It's for sure right now it's Atkinson, but still got 3 quarters of the season, right?
Shout out Tari Eason, 6th man of the year. Defensive menace. Him and Eamon Thompson, the Terror Twins.
Love it.
Okay, they're
Great
like
nickname.
a WWE tag team
Yeah.
coming off the bench, just locking dudes up.
Love it.
The
Love
joy
shit.
when just because I dropped Eason after day 1 in fantasy and Fab's right there to scoop him up, just the joy. Yeah, I see that. I see that look you're giving me.
questionable decisions by you.
Hey man, there's a little Kevin Nash finger poke of doom with me and Fab when it comes to fantasy. So,
Well,
I'll
look, I
just
mean,
leave that
also
there.
got to give Fab a double shout out. He also flagged Eason for 6th man of the year.
Yeah.
So that's been obviously on the move.
Dude, he's awesome though. I'm so pissed. I'm an idiot for dropping him because I loved him coming in. That guy just hounds you.
Yeah.
He is relentless.
Well, so just part of the argument there, real quick, is they got a 3rd overall pick. Was it 3rd? Yeah, 3rd overall pick in Jabari Smith Jr., who is the guy that's right ahead of him,
He's
who's
sitting-
completely dogman right now. Right? So that's the only reason. I shouldn't say the only reason, but that has allowed for Eason to shine even more. If Jabari Smith Jr. was playing like a possible 1st overall pick the way he was during that draft, Eason wouldn't get the minutes that he's getting right now. But because he's been so sluggish, Eason's really answered the call, and he's giving them exactly what they need for a coach like Udoka, who they are literally lockstep, exactly the thing that he wants from his players. So Eason's giving them that effort on the defensive end. He shows up offensively as well. It's just he's a perfect personification of what the Rockets are trying to do.
It's also interesting too, because like we talked about the Rockets, why I love the over on them because they were so deep. So like the fact that he's like first guy, second guy off the bench, him and Ahmed Thompson, like that's like surprising. It just tells you how well he's playing, and he's a dog, man. He does symbolize Udoka.
If you're Houston, would you trade Jabari Smith, or at least you exploring that?
Early.
But he's sitting like
No, it's early.
he's sitting the end of games a lot of
at
times.
some
Why
point,
not have both? They're on cheap contracts right now. Why would you trade them?
At some point, though, they will have to diversify.
That's what I'm saying.
Or they're gonna have to consolidate. Like you're gonna have to like take some of these young guys and make a big move at some point. You got Reed Shepherd, who's kind of waiting in the wings as well. Jalen Green, they just re-signed. Like what happens to like Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks?
It's a good luxury to have, and that's what I'm saying. Like he's still, you might want to move him while the value is still there, versus if you keep waiting, it just drops
Maybe
and drops.
it's gonna be very interesting for them. But I think they're a team. If you're buying stock on a team going forward, Houston is a great position for that, in my opinion.
Fab, what do you think in award wise?
I have not quite an award, but I'm going to dabble on the Spurs to make the play-in.
Here we go.
Which is plus 320. They are above 500 right now. If you want to get really spicy, they're plus 680 to make the playoffs.
There you go.
Just bet both. Bet them, just bank on them winning the play-in.
I know they're a very flawed team, but in watching them, they are a to play against. What they did to the Warriors on the weekend, they took a team that was top 5 in offensive efficiency and held them under 100 points. I mean, when Wemby's on the court, listen, he's not perfect defensively. He still can get caught out of position. But second year, if you get stuck in the half court against these guys, you can't score. It's very difficult. I like the way Stephen Castle's been playing. And they've had injuries, and they're still above 500 with a tough schedule. So I know the West is tough. You look at the standings, and you're like, okay, which is the team that falls out here? But for them to be a top 10 defense, above 500 with injuries, they're a sneaky team, man, and they're not easy to play.
I gotta use this as a segue. So I got a future that tags exactly what you said. Stephen Castle is 20-1 to win Rookie of the Year right now. I don't want to just be a problem spotter. I want to be a problem solver, right? I kept bagging on Jared McCain, Dalton Connect last week and said, way too short, way too short. Well, I didn't give you a solution, all right? I think Castle's one of these guys on a very good trajectory to be able to come into that conversation just based off of what he's doing from a two-way standpoint. Impact winning.
Yeah.
I think those things are going to give him a leg up over some of those guys who are stat stuffers. Good for them. Like, they're putting up the numbers, which is traditionally how Rookie of the Year goes. But if Fab's point is right about the Spurs outperforming where they are, Castle's a big part of it if you're watching games right now. And he's been the beneficiary of some injury luck with his teammates as well. And he's answered the call in those minutes. So you love to see that from a rookie, a high-profile rookie like him. Castle 20-1. I bet you this is probably the floor.
And if you have any investment in Wemby Defensive Player of the Year, Spurs are top 10 defense.
Yeah.
And it's because of him. So.
Well, I think, too, just if you love anything, just start stapling Wemby to everything.
Yeah.
Like, any other future, you just add a little minus 180 or minus 200 or whatever.
If there was
it's at.
any worry before about him winning the award. I know you missed
No,
a couple
it's fine.
games, but like we're seeing it. And he's only going to get better as the season goes along. So
It's funny when you look at the DPOY odds, like no one is even sniffing close to Wemby. It's just he's minus money and everyone is 10-1 or higher because he's just like a player we haven't seen before.
it was Chet Holmgren or nothing.
Yeah.
As far as
That
It
was the only chance.
It was.
That was the only
Correct.
chance.
Chet was the only guy legitimately pushing him because Chet also a monster defensively. OKC flirting with number one.
Yep.
So he was the guy. I don't see anyone else
there's
barring
nothing.
an injury.
Injury's the only
An
thing,
injury is
yeah.
the only
The
thing.
only way it can happen is if Jared Allen goes down. Obviously, we don't want to see anyone get hurt, and Mobley just leaps.
Even
up
then,
and
I
holds
just-
it down. It's the only
I know
scenario.
it's still
with
remote.
It'd
Yeah.
still be tough. I think Wemby has just so much. He has such a strong case study in his favor. It's like the deterrent stuff is nuts.
He needs
so
to play.
much film.
He needs to play 65 games.
Yeah,
Like
that's
that's the
it.
only
That's it.
thing that will defeat this. Is he needs to play his
To
65.
Fab's point, though, the eye test is there, especially where you see people afraid of attack. Like, there's a presence when he's there that people are thinking of and afraid to go to the rim. Before we go, real quick, Edie 10-1. Anybody?
He's 20-1.
He's
20-1.
up to, okay, sorry, Edie 20-1.
Even better.
Yes.
Twice as much money.
And what thoughts? Any takers?
They said he was week to week. So again, it's just. Do you believe the reports out of Memphis? Track it. I like the value.
Given their history, we shouldn't believe the reports out of
I think there's value there. I
like
like
the value.
Castle 20-1. I think
Yeah.
a couple of these guys who are productive rookies that have a shot. I mean, McCain, once again, we need to see more. Jared McCain, he's looked like a baller, no doubt, but We're talking about 8 games.
He's got
9
Eagles
games.
players doing his TikToks in the end zone.
No, you know what I mean? Like,
sickening.
I think it's going to be stat stuffing versus impacts winning. I think that's what it's going to come down to when the awards all said and done in April.
Why'd you bring up the TikTok stuff, man?
Why not? Hey, man.
Why not? No, I don't like it.
Don't you want to appeal to a younger audience? And
don't care.
the younger audience, you're not going to find us on TikTok, but you might on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. That's all for us this week. We'll see you next week.
Gamble responsibly.